Morning, Boker Tov. This week we are studying Parashat Beshalach. And this is known as the Shabbat Shirah. The week that we read Parashat Beshalach is known as the week of a song because we have the Az Yashir song in this week's Parashat, which we'll get to. So first, the beginning of the Parasha is that the Jewish people have left Egypt. And the Torah tells us that when we left Egypt, we intentionally, Hashem had guided us to go into no man's land, going toward area that there was no one there. So for argument's sake, if we would have, let's say we knew we had to go toward Israel, last week he said, I'll bring you to the land that I had promised your forefathers. Wherever Egypt is, Israel, and I don't know if you're seeing my reflection or what you're seeing, but if I'm thinking about how Israel is here, Egypt is there, right? So northeast. Egypt is here, Israel is here, and they have to move in the northeast direction. I'm not sure what you see. If you're seeing me this way, it's going that way. But anyway, it has to go northeast is the direction in which the Jewish people have to go. But the Torah tells us that on purpose, Hashem did not take us northeast because people live there. And if people live there, we're going to have to start fighting wars. And we're not ready to fight wars. We're leaving Egypt now, so let's go south. What this did was compelled Paro to think that Nevuchim hem ba'aretz sagar alem hamidbar. They don't know where they're going. They're going around in circles. They're going to no man's land. They're not going anywhere. This is like they're asking for freedom. They can't handle the freedom. The freedom is not good for them. It's like an example. Let's say someone raises a bird in their home, a parakeet, 5 parakeets in their home, and they say, I want to free it. So after you give it some food, you tell the bird, go fly. And it flies and goes somewhere, and then boom, another bird comes and eats it, or a raccoon comes and grabs it and eats it. You would say, you're not doing it a favor by letting it go free. The best favor you could do for this bird is hold on to it. This is what Paro was thinking. They don't know what they're doing. We have to go help them by bringing them back to be under our lead. Okay, this is what Paro was thinking. And so Torah says that as the Egyptians try to approach us, so they start chasing after us. But there were three protectors. There was going to be clouds that protected us and fire that protected us. There was going to be separation between our people. The Torah is telling us that we had a shield. We had some sort of a protective layer that didn't let the Egyptians approach us. Now we get to the story of the Yam Suf, the sea splitting. Let me just talk through what the Torah tells us. The Torah tells us that there is a sea in front of them. And they see behind us the Egyptians are approaching, and so they pray to Hashem. They scream to Moshe. Moshe prays to Hashem, and Hashem tells them go into the water. So they go into the water. The sea splits. The Egyptians follow the Jewish people into the water, and afterwards, as the Jewish people come out of the water, and the water closes on the Egyptians. There's a couple of things that I just want to share here. Is that number one? They weren't trying to cross. I'm going to try to pull up a diagram. They weren't trying to cross the Yam Suf. There wasn't like they're trying to get to the other side. No, in fact, the whole purpose of the Yam Suf going through the sea was not so that the Egyptians get to the other side, that the Jewish people get to the other side. It's actually so that the Egyptians could be drowned. That's really the only reason. They were going in, not to come out on the other side so that they're closer to somewhere. They're going on a 40-year journey, and they're going in the wrong direction. You're not trying to get to the other side. What they're trying to do is to, essentially what Hashem is doing is luring, it's an ambush, luring the Egyptians to follow the Jewish people into the water so that this way they could be drowned. That's one thing that I wanted to mention. I don't see the circle, the semicircle, but in fact, there's a Rambam that says that the path in which it's a Rambam in Pirkei Avot, which I could find it. I believe it's in the 5th chapter. The 5th chapter in Pirkei Avot, there's like a diagram that's shown that it actually was a semicircle. They went in and they came back out from the same side. They weren't trying to go out to the other side. Okay, that's one thing I wanted to mention. The next thing that's worth mentioning is that when they went in, why didn't the Egyptians come out? The Torah tells us very clearly that they came in with their horse and chariots, and their wheels got stuck in the mud. They weren't able to lead. There it says, they It was almost like it became quicksand for them. So it was the same ground that the Jewish people were walking through dry land. The Egyptians, as they came in, they sunk. They were like they were. It was being able to get out of. So they were stuck, and they understood. The Torah tells us that they said, we need to get out of here, because obviously God is fighting for them. They understood full well what was going on. It was just Paro's defiance that told them that they have to go forward. But they knew that they were going to, that this would be the end of their reign, and they went forward with it anyway. Why? Because they're fighting to the death almost. They're actually fighting to the death. Okay, then I just want to get through the parasha. Maybe we'll come back to discuss a few things. But another thing that's worth mentioning here is we have the Az Yashir Moshe. So the Torah tells us that when they enter the sea, the Egyptians come in after them. The Jews come out, but the Egyptians remain. The water is closed on them. They drown. They drown and they're killed. So much so the Torah says, "Vayar Yisrael at Mitzrayim met al sefat hayam." Israel sees Egypt dead on the seashore. It's very poignant. The Torah does not say that Israel sees the Egyptians dead. It says it sees Egypt dead. They see Egypt is dead. It's not just the Egyptians that were dead, which is what it means. The entire nation of Egypt is now dead, and they see it with their own eyes. And they now fear God. And they believe in God and Moshe his servant. This is what it took, and now they finally believe. They finally believe that Hashem is behind it. They just went from being a slave nation to a free nation in a matter of days. And the Egyptians went from being the most powerful nation to a non-existent nation, completely annihilated in a matter of moments. In a matter of moments, they went from the strongest nation to now non-existent. They're dead. It's done. Unbelievable. And so what's important here is that the Torah tells us is that when they saw with their own eyes the Egyptians were dead, they finally began to believe. Then we have the song of the Az Yashir. The song of the Az Yashir is a beautiful poem led by Moshe Rabbeinu and also for Miriam on the female side, that it's a poem of singing praise to Hashem, not for the fact that the Egyptians died, yes, but it's more the fact that we were saved, and we were saved by them dying. But the focus is on the fact that we were saved, and they're singing a song about how great Hashem is and how amazing the miracles are and what they had witnessed and what they had experienced. And it's really a very beautiful, beautiful portion of the Torah that we read in our tefillot every morning. This Az Yashir is instituted as part of the Psukei de Zimra, as part of the, like after the Baruch Shamar, after the Ashrei, before Yishtabach, we say this every day because it's a beautiful section of Hashem's salvation, about how Hashem can really flip. You have the lowest raising to the highest and the highest raising to the lowest. It could happen in a matter of moments. It's a very beautiful portion. After we have the section that Moshe Rabbeinu sings, we then have a follow-up that tells us that Miriam sang or led the singing for the woman. Vatikach Miriam Haneviyah. She took a drum, or like a, what's it called? A tambourine, like a dombak or whatever. I don't know what it's called, but it's some sort of a percussion instrument that she took with her hand. They call it the drums. She has some sort of a drum, a dombak in her hand that she's playing, and she's leading the woman, and they're singing and they're dancing. Very nice. After the whole singing and dancing, now it's 3 days that they're traveling in the desert, and there's no water for them to drink. So the Torah says, after 3 days of not having any water, they need water. The people need water. They cry to Hashem. They cry to Moshe. Moshe prays. Hashem teaches them this like filtration process, which is obviously, there has to be some symbolism behind this. It says Hashem shows him a tree and he throws the tree into the water, and there was water present, but the water was undrinkable. It was too bitter. But when he put the tree into the water, now it became drinkable. And they drank from it. And Hashem taught them that you're going to go on this journey. Just keep in mind, as long as you follow my words, you'll be okay. As long as you follow the Torah and you follow the mitzvot, everything, all of the suffering that the Egyptians have gone through, will not befall you. You will be okay. I, God, am your healer. I will help you. I will make sure that you're okay. You have nothing to worry about. You went from being a slave nation to a free nation. You went from having bitter water to pure water. I can provide for you. Just follow and act properly. Okay, so there's a lot of discussion here about this episode of the tree making the water pure and drinkable, but essentially what the message, without going too deep into it, is that Hashem, through his Torah, which the tree is like a Etz Chaim Hin Machazikim Ba, the tree is symbolic of the Torah. The tree is symbolic of the Torah. When you have something that's good of water without Torah, it's undrinkable. It's bitter. When the Torah goes in, it becomes sweet and it's drinkable and it sustains your life. Symbolically, Hashem is teaching them, you're going to go out in the wild. A key element is following the Torah, listening to the words of Hashem. If you do, you'll be okay. If not, you won't be okay. And that's a very important lesson for their journey. And it's a couple of stories in this week's parasha that it occurs. The next thing that happens is, okay, they complain that they don't have water. They got their water. Now they're complaining that they don't have food. They don't have meat. They're complaining about that. So Hashem gives them a new menu. And on the menu, he basically says in the morning, you're going to get manna, in the evening, you're going to get meat. Now, what is the man? The man is food that will fall from the sky every morning. Every single day, you'll have a portion for that day. Every day, you're going to get a certain portion. Very interesting. There are 3 laws that were given to the Jewish people with respect to collecting the man. The man would fall every morning. They would have to go in the morning hours and collect it. And they would collect, depending on the amount of people in their home, for each person, you would collect an omer's volume worth. An omer, let's call it a liter. Probably a little bit more than a liter. Let's just call it a liter. So every person would collect a liter. A father of a family of 10, let's say, a family of 5, would go and collect 5 liters. 10 people, 10 liters would go collect this. Rule number 1, don't collect more. If you're given an amount of a liter per person, or not a liter, but it's an omer per person, don't collect more than an omer, don't collect less than an omer. Rule number 2, don't leave over to the next morning. Whatever you have is for you for today. Tomorrow, you'll come back, there'll be more. You don't take a doggy bag. You don't go to the restaurant and after dinner and you say, hi, can I pack this to go? There's no packing to go. Tomorrow, you'll get again. Okay? When you're done, you leave the food, you leave it left over. Rule number 3, don't collect on Shabbat. What you're going to eat on Shabbat is on Friday, you're going to collect a double portion. On Friday, collect for today and for tomorrow. Because on Shabbat, we don't collect. We don't go out. We stay home. We rest. We don't go on this journey of collecting on Shabbat, teaching the laws of Shabbat. These are the 3 rules given to them. And these 3 rules are supposed to start training the nation to understand that they are free people that God is providing for. When Hashem says, don't take more, don't take less, why is he saying that? He's saying that because the natural inclination someone would have would be to take more. You know, you're a slave. You see a free buffet. You see free food. You know, like, you don't need to go that far. You just have to go see it. When there's an event and they put some food out, people are probably taking more than they need to eat. And so, why? I mean, the slave mentality is because I don't know when the next time I'm going to see food is. I see food now. I don't know when the next time I'm going to see food is. And so what Hashem is training them, don't worry, I'm providing for you. I'm going to give you food to eat tomorrow. Then don't save over anything for tomorrow. Same idea. You don't need to save for tomorrow. I'll provide for you for tomorrow. And don't collect on Shabbat, rest on Shabbat. Hashem is now introducing the concept of Shabbat and how they need to keep the Shabbat because it's a demonstration that Hashem is involved with their lives. Resting on Shabbat is saying that you rest on Shabbat because Hashem rested on Shabbat after the 6 days of creation. And just as he created the world and the universe in 6 days and rested on the 7th, he's involved with our lives today, and he's asking us to work 6 days and rest on the 7th. And that's a testament to the fact that we believe Hashem is running the world. And that is very much connected with the man. Hashem is providing food for you, and Hashem is the one running the world. So if he's telling you don't work on Shabbat, don't go collect on Shabbat, and I will provide for you, you show your demonstration of faith by not collecting. Okay, there's a lot of interesting things to say about the man, but we'll keep going. So we had a complaint number one was about the food, the water. He gave him the water. And then the next complaint was about the food, and he gave him the food. Then we had this last complaint again about water. Excuse me. It's about water. The Torah tells us, and it's worth mentioning, there's a couple laws of Shabbat that are introduced to the people now. Don't go collect. You shouldn't go walk too far in Shabbat. It's a day of rest. Fine. And as they're traveling, the Torah tells us the next area they go to, there's no water for them to drink. So now we have an episode where Hashem tells them that since there's no water to drink, go collect leaders of the nation. You take the staff, and with the staff, you go in front of a rock, you hit the rock, and when you hit the rock, water will come and bring forth water for all of the people and for their animals. Right? And that's what the Torah says. Now, foreshadowing, there will be another story like this in Parashat Chukat when Moshe hits the rock, and you need to study these two sections together. You can't study one without the other. Because in this case, Hashem tells him, hit the rock. And what does he do? He hits the rock. And what happens? The rock provides water, essentially. By the way, someone has shown me there's these images you can find online, and when we're thinking about a rock, we're not talking about something that's like small that you like take and you skip a rock on the thing. We're talking about like a massive thing, something that's maybe like 50 feet high, and when he hits it, it could be that it's opening, like let's say if it cracks the rock in the right way, you could have water that, let's say there's like a stream of water that's passing through that now could come through the rock. That's one way that I heard that it was explained, but it was very clear that there was a miracle. There was no water. Hashem told Moshe, take your staff, hit this rock, water will come forth. And in front of everyone's eyes, he did that. He hit the rock and water came forth. The last section of the Torah has to do with the parasha of Amalek. The Torah tells us that we were attacked. Now that we're roaming the desert on our own, a nation by the name of Amalek. Amalek is Esav's grandson. So this is our cousin, right? This is like from Esav's family. It's our cousin. So one of our cousins attacks us. And, we have our cousins attacking us nowadays also. But this is what happened with Amalek. They attacked us. The Torah tells us the way they attacked us is they went after the weak. They went after the vulnerable. They weren't trying to fight a war. There was nothing for them to get from us. It's not like we had territory. We weren't threatening anyone. We were just a large nation just in the desert. The nomadic tribe of Amalek came and they attacked us, and we fought a war. In fact, Yehoshua was our army general. He fought a war, and they were successful. The Torah tells us this section of like Moshe went up on a mountain. Moshe, Aharon, and Hur, they went up on top of a mountain, and when Moshe put his arms up, they would be successful in the war. When he dropped his arms down, they would lose in the battle. And the Mishnah and Masechet Rosh Hashanah says, what is this? His arms are winning the war and his arms are losing the war? It says, no, when his arms were up, people who were fighting the war remembered and recalled that Hashem is running the world. Hashem is the one who is going to bring about our successes, and they see his arms, they see that he's praying, and they get inspired in their prayer, they give their hearts to Hashem, and then they become successful in war. But when his arms are down, and they're focused down, they're focused on the actual army, what is this? It's a nation of people that are slaves. They don't know how to fight wars. They've never been trained in battle. They've never held a weapon in their lives. How are they going to win anything? So then the natural laws of nature take over, and they're going to lose the war. So when Moshe's arms were up, it was reminding them that I don't know how to handle a weapon, but I know that Hashem is behind us. Then they were successful, because when they placed their faith in Hashem, they were successful. But when they didn't place their faith in Hashem, then they weren't successful. Very interesting section of the Torah. And the Torah ends off by telling us by telling Moshe that this whole section of the Jewish people fighting a war against Amalek, you need to remember this. You need to write the story down. You need to tell the people for future generations, because this, unfortunately, is a precedent for what's going to happen to the Jewish people over and over again. They will be attacked. There is this concept of anti-Semitism. They will be attacked for no good reason, and the only way, this will exist forever. The Jewish people will never live in peace without the fear of someone wanting to attack them. So they'll need to make sure that they defend themselves. That's how this parasha ends. Okay, there's so much to discuss in this parasha, but we tried to cover as much as we could. We'll pause now, open it up for questions. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask.
Rabbi, after they left, or after the Egyptians got flooded, and Israel just walking through, or the Jews walking through the desert, why does Hashem make it so like? Why does he like have to starve them, and why does he have to like keep like pushing their buttons for them and like almost forcing them to sin? Like I get like he's testing them and trying to bring them outside of his slave body, but like why does he like have to? Why can't he just make it easier for them?
Phenomenal question. Okay, Mordechai, I love the question, and I see another one in the chat. I'll answer this question, then I'll address the question in the chat. John asking a great question. The Jewish people just went from one complaint to the next complaint to the next complaint. But you're saying, yeah, they have what to complain about. There's no water for them to drink. There's no food for them to eat. Of course, they're going to keep complaining. Like, why did Hashem put them in these positions? I think the answer is that this was all part of a necessary training process. It's not that Hashem was testing them to see if they believe in Him. No. He knows that they are not a free nation. He knows that they are a slave nation. But in order to get them to think like a free nation, they need to be challenged. They need to be pushed. They need to have like training. So this is like a coach almost that's pushing them through something difficult so that they learn from it. And there's one very beautiful thing that I read this week that said, remember with the man, there were 3 rules. What were the 3 rules? Don't take too much, don't take too little. But the Torah tells us they broke the rules. John, to your point, Hashem knew they were going to break the rules. And it was okay, because what did the next line say? It says, whoever took too much, it came back down to the same level. It settled. And whoever took too little, it went up. The one who took too much didn't get more, and the one who took too less didn't take less. It was like a self-correcting mechanism. So Hashem said, go collect this amount, and even if you didn't, you did. Right? It's almost like training wheels that you were going to fail. Then there was the next law.
He knows he wants them to know everything's coming. It's like he wants them to know everything's coming from him, but at the same time, he can't spoil them, too much.
Exactly. And just to continue with this idea, the next thing that he told them is don't leave over anything till tomorrow morning. And what happens? People left over till tomorrow morning. And what happened? It spoiled. It rotted. They got filled with worms. So Hashem can't just tell them this. He has to show them. He has to demonstrate them. They need to feel it for themselves. So, yeah, you're right. He puts them in challenging positions for them to realize, what are we going to do? Here's the answer. It's like if a father is trying to teach his son, or let's say like these missions where you're trying to teach your child how to do something. You want to teach your kid how to play, do field as a shortstop in baseball. You don't roll the ball to him easy every single time. You give him a hard, difficult throw. You do things that he's going to fail at. You do things that he's not going to get right. Why? So that he could learn. He said, oh, okay, I need to dive like this. I need to slide like this. I need to take care of my body like this. I need to throw like that. I need to make these decisions. The only way this could be taught is through practice. And Hashem gave them these challenges, gave them tests, knew they were going to fail at the test, but it was okay. I'll give you a third one. The third test was, don't collect on Shabbat. What did the Torah tell us? They said, the Torah tells us people went to collect on Shabbat, but there was nothing to collect. Again, these are different laws that he gave them to teach them, but if you broke the law, you kept it anyway. Don't take too much, but if you did, it falls to the same level. Don't say it till tomorrow morning, but if you do, it gets thrown out anyway. Don't collect on Shabbat, and even if you do, there's nothing to collect. It's like training wheels. Hashem is teaching them and training them, and it's like, if you fall, there's a net that's going to catch you anyway. So don't think that Hashem was upset at the Jewish people for complaining. No, this was necessary. It was necessary for them to say, hey, Hashem told me, don't worry about the food for tomorrow because I'm going to have it tomorrow. The first day they were worried. So they'll save some over. And then they see it doesn't help to save. The next morning there is food. Why should I keep doing this? It's a training process for them to get ingrained in their brain to know that Hashem is running the world. There's this concept in parenting, and it's really with everything, it's like you have to repetition. Teach your child over and over and over again until they finally get it. You can't just tell your child something once and expect your child to know it. You have to tell it to him, demonstrate it, practice, expect they're going to fail, do it again until finally you get it. Okay, very good. Next question. It says here, the Torah tells us in chapter 16, line 12, that what's the question? It says that in the evening they would eat meat and they would eat man during the days. Very good. Did they have meat before the quails? Okay, very good. It's an excellent question. In fact, this is what the commentators say, is that we know they had meat. How do we know they had meat? Because they left with sheep and cows and they had plenty of cattle. So much so that when one of the times when Paro told them that go, leave your cattle here, Moshe said, not only are we taking our own cattle, but you're going to give us some of your cattle too. And the Torah tells us that the Jewish people took cows, took sheep, took goats from the Egyptians as they brought their own also. They had them. So this is where some of the commentators say, when the Jewish people complained and said, we want to eat meat, it's like, eat your meat. Why do you want more than what you have? You have the meat. So this was a complaint that Hashem didn't like. Hashem said, the man I'll give you in the morning. In the night, I'll give you some meat also. But this request, Chachamim tell us, was more of like a bogus. Like, if you want to eat meat, eat your meat. Why do you need to get more? You have meat. You have what to eat. You want to enjoy the luxuries of life. You have what to eat. But Hashem said, I'll give you quail anyway. So the question was, did they eat meat before they had quails? The answer is yes. They left with cattle. They left with sheep. Yeah, they were supposed to bring it for korbanot. But they have. And this is something that we're not even a month out from Egypt. They came out with a lot. And so we don't see that they brought the sacrifices yet. We don't see that they brought these animals yet. So they had meat. This is what the commentators explain. Okay, any other questions? I'll say one word tonight is Tu B'Shvat. Tu Tedvav is the 15th of the month of Shvat and is known as the New Year of the trees. Practically speaking, unless you're planting trees, this holiday doesn't have any practical ramifications. Of course, we have the custom to eat fruits and vegetables. Everyone should do it. You should make a bracha before, make a bracha after. Enjoy the fruit. Thank Hashem for the fruit that we have, and make sure that you make a nice idea. If someone doesn't, it's okay. It's not a requirement to eat ilanoti. It's not a requirement to, but that's the custom. So everyone should try to eat. But what's most important is to say the brachot, to enjoy the gifts that Hashem has given us, the different types of fruits. I'll leave you off with one beautiful Gemara. I believe it's a Yerushalmi. There was one rabbi that he had a jar in his home that he would do his loose change. Anytime he went to buy something, and they would give him some change, he would put it in this jar. And once someone asked him, what do you do with all of this loose change? And he said, I'll tell you what I do. I have this jar, I set it to the side. Anytime I go to the supermarket and I'm buying things, if I ever see a new fruit, a fruit that I haven't seen before, or a fruit that I haven't eaten for a while, I use this money from this jar to buy those fruits. It's not something that I need, but it's something that I want, so I could say Shechiyanu, so I could enjoy, because he said, I know one day when I go up to Shemaim, Hashem's going to say, I gave you all of these beautiful fruits. I gave you all of these beautiful delicacies in the world. Why didn't you enjoy them? Stuff we're not supposed to enjoy, don't enjoy. But stuff that you're allowed to, enjoy it. Thank Hashem for it. Say Shechiyanu, say Bar Priya Et, say Bar Priya Adama, say Bar Eminem Mizonot. This is a very beautiful idea. I hope everyone enjoys the different delicacies, and Be'ezrat Hashem, this should be like the new year of the tree. Should be a new year for all of us to have a great year ahead. Hazak Baruch, everyone. Have a great week. Shavua Tov, and happy.
Shavua Tov. Thanks, Rabbi.